Alright guys, what's going on? Needs more drums back in our 1,000 cow series, but just for a little bit of a different episode today. Rather than doing a bunch of time lapses, I just kind of want to talk to you guys because Farming Simulator 25 has been announced. And so before we get into that, I just want to do a little, well, just explain what the game plan is for today. So, as you may remember from the last episode, these two fields here are ready for mowing. We're going to cut these and get them baled into some baled and wrapped. Get some silage for the farm. I purchased a little bit more this morning. I fed the cows this morning. We're all out of silage bales, so I had to go and buy some more. They're sitting over in our in that field over there. You can see them, the black rat bales over there. So we got that going on, and then if we get that done, we'll get started on stacking some of those straw bales. Both of the fields need the bales to be stacked. And ooh, you know what? I actually forgot. I want to have Peter's already running the milk. I want to have Jerry go ahead and start emptying some of the slurry in some of the barns. So I'm gonna get him set up with that real quick, and then we'll be right back. All right, we got Jerry all set to go with the slurry. Peter's still on the milk, so now we can get started with the work for today. So one thing that I want to point out is that I did not know that this mower had a swathing mode. So if I unfold it here, I can actually change from left swath, right swath, wide spreading, or just swath dropping. So that is super annoying. I've literally been spending a whole bunch of extra time going back through and windrowing these grass fields after they've been cut when I don't even need to do that. So anyway, we're gonna get this fired up and let's talk Farming Simulator 25. All right, so right now there's not a ton of info on the game other than a blog post from Giants, a couple of screenshots. I think there's like 4 screenshots. I mean, there might be a couple more floating around, but I've only seen like 4 of them. And then there was the cinematic trailer that was released. So, I mean, overall, not a lot to go off of. And, the initial reaction from a lot of people is, I think a lot of the Giants partners and, like the bigger content creators, who've done videos on the trailer already, that's why I kind of didn't make one, is because everybody else has already done it better than me. So, why reinvent the wheel? But yeah, if you want to learn more about any kind of a deep dive into any of those specific marketing, promos or anything, or, announcement things that they've put out, go and check out, one of their videos, DJ Go Ham, Farm Some Guy, all those guys. But, yeah, my initial reaction is a positive one. I think a lot of content creators who have played Farm Sim for a long time also share that similar reaction. Now, there's a lot of people that are actually a little bit more pessimistic about the game, which kind of, it bothers me for a lot of reasons. I think that the new game, to an extent, is going to be very similar to the old one. Obviously FS25 is going to be FS22 at its core, but better. I mean, it is an updated version nonetheless, but relatively speaking, it is still the Giants engine. It's not a new game engine, and I don't think that they should worry about making a new engine. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, Farm Sim is would be so much better on like Unreal or some other game engine, which, like, if you're not a game developer, like, don't say that, because I mean, the reason that the Giants engine exists, as far as I know, because I'm not a game developer either, but from what I've heard is that when they made Farm Sim, they tried using other engines, but no other engine could really do what the Giants engine can do, so they built their own. And that's really cool. It does what they want it to do. Obviously this has been a successful series of games. I think each one is an improvement on the last, and while the gameplay to its core kind of remains the same, it's obviously they're doing something right. The game is successful. They sell millions of copies. It attracts a very diverse player base, from people who want a realistic farming experience, with the help of mods, to people who just want to sit back and kind of mess around, plow some fields, cut some grass, bale some hay, whatever. They've cornered that market, and they do it really well. And even forestry, they have forestry in the game for people that want to do forestry, and I mean, you can really do what you want with it, and that's what makes Farm Sim so fun and so great. is that you could literally, like, it's a sandbox game, and you could, you know, set up your own stories, you could set up your own maps and kind of play styles. So that's, you know, that's what I expect from Farm Sim 25. If people are kind of talking about, like, you know, some rebuilding the game, oh, it's time for a new Farm Sim and rebuilding the game and blah blah blah, and I really disagree. I mean, let me know in the comments, you know, your thoughts on the release and the announcement. Well, not the release, the soon to be released game, but the release of the announcement of the release, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, yeah, let me know your thoughts, because I don't want to rebuild the game. You know, I like Farm Sim because it's Farm Sim. I think it's fun. I think I know how the game works, which makes it fun. You know, I can kind of create challenges for myself, like I did with this series, like I did with my survival series, you know, because I know how the game works. So I never want them to get rid of that. And it doesn't look like they will, but, you know, that's just my thought. There's a lot of people that are kind of asking for the game to be more like SnowRunner. Personally, I don't think SnowRunner and Farm Sim should ever be in the same game. I mean, SnowRunner's great in its own right. You know, it's fun for off-roading. The terrain and the, you know, changing dynamic terrain and stuff is really cool for that game, getting stuck in the mud. But if that was in Farm Sim, that would be really frustrating. I mean, I don't think any of us want to be, you know, getting stuck in the mud and bouncing around in a tractor, and, you know, that would mess up getting like really straight lines on your fields, and that would just take forever to do stuff. And like, I don't, you know, I don't want that. And as soon as, you know, so one of the things that was mentioned in the announcement was like deformable terrain, and, you know, people's initial reaction was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be like, you know, we're gonna be like SnowRunner, and it's gonna be, you know, a great, like, everything's gonna be, you know, your tractors are gonna get stuck and all that. I don't really think that's what it's gonna be. My initial reaction was maybe they would have something like base game Terraform. I don't know if you don't know what Terraform is. It's a mod that allows you to use, like, you know, bulldozers and excavators and things to actually use the landscaping features, like the base game landscaping features. So, you know, raise lower terrain, flatten it, whatever. That's at the far end of my speculation, but I think a more realistic expectation, after kind of, you know, being around Discord and hearing from some of the bigger creators and stuff, I think a more realistic expectation is something along the lines of a mud and, you know, puddles. You know, maybe with the new water feature, or at least something that the trailer teased, was potentially being able to flood your fields. So maybe flooded fields could be a feature. I mean, I'm just speculating. Go and watch the trailer for yourself. You know, let me know what you guys think. But yeah, I mean, if anything, I think that'll be the extent of it. And I always am kind of, I've noticed, you know, with Farm Sim 22, some of the new base game features were kind of built on some of the most popular mods at the time, you know, of the previous game. So, like, for example, FS19 had seasons, and so FS22 had base game seasons. And while it wasn't the same as the seasons mod and didn't have all the features that were part of seasons, it was kind of like a, you know, laid back version of seasons, I guess. But it still kind of brought that aspect to the game. You know, it brought a planting season and a harvesting season, and I think, and winter, you know, I think that was, you know, snow removal equipment. I think that was really cool how they took an idea kind of from a mod and built it into the base game, because they knew that people loved it. And that's what's great about Farm Sim. And so you know, lately with maps and everything, there's been a lot of maps that have, you know, mud built into them, where, you know, your tires kind of spin, or puddles on the surfaces that form after it rains, you know, and especially like some of the newer, like the really high quality ones, all kind of have that. And I think that's a cool feature that is probably more along the lines of, you know, this deformable terrain and whatever. I don't think it's going to be anything super crazy, but it's going to be a nice added touch. And so, speaking kind of along those lines, I think the main obvious change is going to be the graphics, since they're dropping support for Xbox PS1 and PS4, they're able to take advantage of next-gen consoles. And so they're going to have the game on PC and console. So I'm sure they're going to be able to, and, you know, console's always kind of been the limiting factor in terms of what the game could really, of, you know, how they can kind of optimize the game. So I think the fact that they're dropping support for those old gen consoles, now they have support for the new gen consoles only, PS5 and Series X, and then PC, obviously. That will give them room to make some major graphical improvements. And they already said they've updated the game engine. If you look at some of the screenshots, some of the dynamic weather effects that are being talked about, there's been some pictures, you know, released regarding those, like kind of a distance fog and some like just kind of mist in the morning and everything like that. And I think based on the screenshots, if those are anywhere close to what the game's gonna look like, I'm already 100% gonna be loving it. Because I mean, I think FS22, especially depending on the map, I think this game looks pretty good. I like the lighting. I like, you know, I mean, look at the distance just with this map. I know this is map specific, but like, I love this map. It feels super immersive. I love that, you know, you can have a map in this game that allows you to feel that way. And I think the game looks pretty good, you know. So the textures are smooth, lighting is good, you know, the models are great. And so I think Giants has always done a really good job graphically, and that's not the most of my concerns. But, you know, you look at these screenshots, you look at the trees, you look at the fog. There's one of like, it's a river, and, you know, you're kind of like by the river in the morning, and it looks like the sun is rising, and there's a mist that kind of is just sitting over the field. And again, if that's any indication of the environment that we're going to be in FS25, I'm going to love it. It's going to be great. So yeah, and the trees alone look beautiful. So, I mean, they look full, they look really lush. I like that a lot. The trees in this game, you know, I mean, they look okay, but they're still like, the leaves are very two-dimensional, and they don't look as full as the screenshots are showing in FS25. So really promising there. I know there's been some a little bit of a skepticism on the textures, you know, like some of the field textures. I mean, obviously, like the grass textures look really, really good. Like the plowed texture, the sowing, the seeding texture looks really good. But some of the things look kind of pretty similar to FS22, like the harvest texture, and for example, like these grass swath textures. You know, people were hoping for more of a 3D mesh as opposed to a 2D mesh that is currently being used. So as you can see, like, it's not, you know, there's really no dimension to these. It's just kind of like a 2D pile of grass sitting on top of a shape. Whereas people, like, think we're hoping to see something a little bit more three-dimensional. But, you know, again, these are really, really early screenshots. Who knows? Those might just be placeholders for now. And even if not, like, that's not really the least of my concerns. I feel like making a 3D mesh for a kind of a deformable texture like this is probably not the easiest thing in the world. So again, you know, I wouldn't complain if that wasn't any different. And that's one thing too, you know, that people have to keep in mind. So my biggest reaction is there's a great deal of people that are excited about the game, but there's a great deal of people that are, you know, saying, oh, I'm not going to buy it, and I'm not going to pre-order it if it, you know, looks like this in its current state. I mean, it's not even a beta release. I mean, they just announced that the game is coming in 5 months. You know, there's FarmCon coming up. People are they're gonna show off some stuff in FarmCon. You know, there's so much time that, like, how are you gonna make a judgment call like that when you have seen 4 screenshots and a trailer? It just doesn't make much sense to me. But, you know, if you wanna judge the game, like, by no means, like, nobody's forcing you to buy it, of course. But I think it's a little early to tell. And a lot of reasons why people are saying that is they're saying, oh, you know, it's just going to be a FS22 reskin, and, you know, it's not going to bring any new features and this and that, and like everything. It just looks like FS22 with slightly better graphics. And like, yeah, at the end of the day, like, it is definitely going to be FS22 with better graphics. But I think there's also going to be a lot of new features. Each game has been an improvement from the last. And one thing that I feel like a lot of people in the community, you know, I've been talking with, have kind of shared, is that the series as a whole, when you look at the whole series, the game has improved so much. You know, you look from like FS13 to 15, 17, 19, whatever, and then you look at FS22. I mean, the series has come a really, really long way. And so I think like each game brings some new features to the table, and it's impossible to include everything. You know, Giants is a very small dev team, and I think the fact that they even release a new game every 2 or 3 years or so is an achievement in and of itself, plus DLCs on top of that. Like, that's really cool. And they implement things that the community asked for. And so, you know, they can't do it all, right? They can't put everything in the game that people want. It would be ridiculous. Because, you know, at the end of the day, they gotta appeal to like a general population. Get rid of that map. But, you know, whatever they do add is gonna be great. It's gonna make the game better. And if there's bugs, they're gonna fix them. You know, it's just like stuff like that. I mean, people should not write off the game because they're not showcasing tons of new features right from the start. I mean, they've already said there's gonna be new crops. There's gonna be rice growing in that game, which is a very, very new territory. You know, we've never had any kind of Asian crops or environments in Farming Simulator as far as I've only played 19 and 22, but I'm a little bit, you know, late to the party. But either way, that sounds really cool. And, you know, growing rice is very, very unique, and it's very different than arable crops like these, you know, like this wheat and this corn and grass and everything. It involves, you know, a very different process. So it'll be really cool to see that implemented into the game. One thing that I'm really hoping they improve a little bit on is animals. I hope they add some kind of, you know, a little bit more of a challenging aspect to animals. I mean, a lot of people have been talking about this too. Animals are really, really easy, and they were in 19, they have been in 22, and, you know, they don't get sick. Like, there's really nothing you need to do to take care of them other than just feed them once in a while. And, you know, this obviously, like with this series, I have to feed my cows every day, but if this was like a regular map where we only had one barn, I could feed them every, you know, probably a couple of days, maybe once a month, and they would be totally fine. So I think that's one area that if they were to, you know, if I would hope that there would be some major improvement, it would be animals. And I think that's an area that, you know, if there was going to be like a major overhaul, I think that's something that a lot of people would really be happy with, because I don't know what I'm doing here. I gotta do one more headland pass, and then we'll start doing some pros. But anyway, yeah, you know, that's one area that I think would make a lot of longtime players really, really happy. Would be kind of an overhaul of some of the animal mechanics, just in the way that, you know, adding in some more maybe random factors, like it giving birth to more than one offspring. You know, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry with, you know, you can very much predict how many animals are going to be in your pens after one of your animals gets pregnant, because it's always going to be, oh man, almost ran into him there, whoops. But it's always going to be the same, you know, and there's no risk involved in that. There's no, you know, there's nothing like, oh, your animal's going to get pregnant and then, you know, it won't end up having any offspring or anything like that. You know, it's always guaranteed. It's always the same. So some kind of improvement there would be really, really cool, I think. But again, you know, don't know how hard that stuff will be to implement on a giant sense. So I'm not, you know, I'm not a game developer. I don't know. But yeah, so animals is one area where I think there can be some improvements. And they've hinted, you know, they've said there's going to be new animals in the game. They said there's going to be bison in the game, which I think is really interesting. I imagine that's going to be very similar to just base game cattle, just another kind of breed. But, you know, that'll be cool. There's even been some speculation with one of the DLCs. Looks like a UK or Scottish themed DLC, when, you know, as part of the season pass for farming for FS25, and they're speculating some Highland cows, maybe another breed of cows. So, you know, anything like that would be cool too. Just it would be nice to have some kind of more challenging animal mechanic if people so choose. You know, that's the problem, is that, again, like I said before, Farm Sim has a very broad customer base. It appeals to a very, very diverse group of people. And so, you know, you don't want to make the game too challenging, because there's a lot of people saying like, oh, you know, I want, you know, really like hardcore precision farming and, you know, like a crazy simulation and just, you know, I want it to be really challenging. And like, well, there is a subset of people that would really like that. there's also a great majority of people that just want to get in and do stuff like this, you know, and just kind of have very simplified versions of farming tasks. And I think that's kind of where I fall in. You know, it would be cool to have some realistic things like, you know, mechanical breakdowns on your tractors, like, you know, that'll make your tractor, you know, you have to take it out of service for a couple days or something, or you got to send it to the shop, or, you know, maybe, yeah, maybe there's a severe weather event, like they've hinted at they've mentioned dynamic weather. What if, you know, it rains so bad that your field, some of your crops get flooded and you have a less yield? Or what if it gets so hot in the summer that there's a drought and some of your crops die? You know, those are things that I think could be turned on and off, similar to how, you know, if you want weeds or field stones or periodic plowing, you could just turn those on and off. But if you want a little bit more of a challenge, having things like that on where your crops are directly affected by severe weather events, you know, that is a feature that would be really, really cool. And again, all of this is just, you know, me just talking, just speculating. I have no idea. I'm not a partner or anything. I have no idea what's going to be in the game or not. So take it with a grain of salt. But, you know, I think that would be really cool, having some kind of weather impact on your crops. And it would add a little bit of challenge to the game and a little bit of a realistic challenge, you know, because right now, once you figure out just how the game mechanics work, Farm Sim is really, really easy. It's really easy to make money. Even on hard mode, quote unquote, it's really easy to make money in this game. And I think any added challenge or kind of risks that would be involved with farming would be a welcome addition into the game. You know, there's been a huge, I feel like a huge hype around agriculture lately, especially in the Farm Sim community, with, you know, Clarkson Farm becoming a pretty popular show. And so that's been really cool, you know, in its own way, to have kind of a mainstream outlet where farming is, and the difficulties of farming are sort of being brought to light by someone who wasn't a farmer and is kind of just like, you know, how hard can this be? And then gets into the weeds of farming and realizes, you know, no pun intended, gets into the weeds of farming and realizes just how difficult it actually is. And so, you know, a Farm Sim game that could kind of tailor themselves to, like, the Jeremy Clarksons of farming that don't have really any idea what they're doing and just want to get in and just kind of plow some fields. You know, Farm Sim has to cater to that market, but they also have to cater to the people like that understand, you know, that grew up on farms and play Farm Sim that are actual farmers. I mean, there's a lot of people that are real farmers that in their off time just play Farm Sim, which is hilarious. And I think it's a testament to kind of, you know, just how relaxing the game is and how awesome of a game it is. So, you know, long story short, I would like there to be some more challenging features of the game. I would like there to be, I would hope that they would implement some sort of, you know, I don't, you get my point. I mean, I would hope that they would make the game a little bit challenging for people if they so choose, right? And we'll see. You know, I know they have some features that are going to be announced probably at FarmCon. I know they're going to announce some features, you know, closer towards release. But that would be really cool if we can have more toggleable features that could make the game more or less challenging depending on your playstyle. And that's what's great about Farm Sim. Again, like, personally, I don't even play with field stones. I think I find them annoying. I think there's not really a lot of I mean, you have to buy, there's not a lot of equipment available to even deal with field stones. So I kind of like just don't use them, and that doesn't bother me, right? But I do like playing with weeds. I do like playing with plowing on, everything like that, you know. And definitely if there were some more challenging aspects, like, you know, weather impacts or something, I would definitely play with those too. So that's my general thought on that. Animals, weather, base game crops. I know there's going to be, you know, probably some new crops. Obviously, with new crops comes new equipment. You know, there's obviously going to be rice. People have speculated that there may be like some kind of peas or alfalfa or something like that. So that would be cool. You know, any new crops are always welcome. Obviously, they added, you know, grapes and olives in the last game. I wonder if they'll keep those. And another thing that somebody pointed out in a screenshot of there was like a screenshot of a cow laying in a field, and somebody said in the background, like, hey, those kind of look like Like it could be like some kind of orchard. That's something that I actually didn't think about. That would be really, really cool to have. I know I've wanted to, there's mods out right now that kind of let you make orchards, you know, kind of like planting some trees that require manure and water to grow fruit, and then you could sell it just like with like a greenhouse product, kind of like a production chain. So that would be really cool to have something like that in the game. And yeah, I mean, that any kind of new production chains are going to be welcome as well. I haven't really dabbled too much with the production chains, but I think that they're definitely a cool new feature, and they've laid the groundwork for some really cool additions going forward, right? Like I think Silver Run Forest was a cool way to implement production chains into the game, you know, building the roller coaster and having like an end goal for a map using the production chains. And so I just feel like I haven't had really the time to dive into many of the production chains, but if I had more time, that's an area of this game that I would like to explore a little bit more. And I might do, you know, if I have the time before November, I might do, you know, build that into my survival series a little bit, or just generally, you know, I might even start a new series based on productions. I mean, I would love to explore that aspect of the game before jumping into FS25, you know, when it comes out. So hopefully there's some cool new additions to production chains. They've mentioned they've mentioned construction as another one. So I'm imagining something similar to the roller coaster in Silver Run Forest, right? Like maybe each map having some kind of end goal to take advantage of the production chains, and then, you know, you build out your production, and then you know, turn raw resources into specialized goods, and then you use those goods to build, you know, some kind of building or something like that. I think that's really cool. It gives you kind of a game plan. If you don't have anything that you really want to do, at the very least you could do that. So that's pretty sweet. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead here and start making some bales, since that took literally no time at all. As you can see, it's only 10:30 in the morning, and we've already gotten plenty of stuff done. That usually takes twice as long, because then I would have to go back through and windrow all that grass. So look at that. Look at how convenient that is. But I think I need to turn on automatic. Ooh, let me reset the bale counter too. So let's do this. See how many silage bales we get at the end of this. And I think I need to do, there we go. Okay. I was using my farm stick instead of the keyboard. I like to try to use that when I can. But anyway, jump in cab view real quick. I always feel like I'm a little bit better with this in cab view, but yeah. So I don't know. That is pretty much my initial thoughts about the game announcement. Like I said, I'm very optimistic. I think any additional features are going to be a very, very welcome improvement. Obviously, there's going to be new brands. I would love to see, and this will be the last thing that I'll talk about, because we're getting kind of low on time here. But the last thing that I want to mention is American just maps and brands and everything. So I think the game is obviously developed, you know, overseas. So I get it. It's very European in just game design and everything. But I would love to see more American vehicle brands. I think there's a lot of, like, Mac came to FS22, and that was awesome. You know, I'd love to see, again, and it's all dependent. So what a lot of people don't know is that, or kind of overlook, is that, oh, why don't they just add brands into the game, you know, whatever they want. It doesn't work like that. You know, I work in finance, but I work in a special area of finance where we deal with intellectual property and you know, like legal issues with intellectual property. So a big thing that people often, or that people don't really know about, is that all that stuff has to be licensed. So you can't just, you know, sell a game and say, oh, I want to add Kenworth trucks or whatever, right? And you know, I'm just gonna release the game and have Kenworth as the name brand and whatever. You can't do that. That's actually illegal, and you can get sued, and we don't want that. So what they have to do is they have to license the brands from those manufacturers to be able to include them in the game, and then therefore make money off the game. You know, you can't make money off something unless you license it. So yeah, just so you know, if you didn't know that, now you know. But that's why there's not tons of, you know, different brands in the game. They have to work with them each individually to get the licensing for those. And so any new brand is a great achievement and a cool feature. But, you know, it would be cool to see another American brand like, you know, Ford, Ram, Chevy, Peterbilt, Kenworth, Western Star, maybe. I mean, you name it, just any of those. International is another one. I mean, they have Case, you know, maybe they could add, you know, International, but yeah, anything like that would be really, really cool. So that's my hope. And final hope for American, speaking of American stuff, is a proper American map. I feel like all of the American quote unquote maps in FS19, FS22, they always kind of look, they still feel very European. Like they have American roads, they have American buildings, but just the layout of the maps feels very non-American. And I can't quite put my finger on it why. I mean, I think I kind of know why. It's because there's still just a ton of like oddly shaped small fields. If you've ever driven through the Midwestern United States, you'll know that America is just like, that part of America is just sprawling flat plains for miles and miles and miles, and just these huge fields, you know, huge triple wheeled tractors and everything. And I feel like that's what farm sim from the American side has been lacking in, you know, these recent games. And so there's really no like they include, you know, these big tractors, but there's really not a great opportunity to use them, because the maps might have a couple big fields, but there's a lot of just really, really small ones. So I would hope that if they have an American map, it would be more maybe reflective of those parts of America, because there are parts of America that are hilly and, you know, have like smaller fields kind of up in the hills and the mountains and stuff. And like, I understand that, you know, but I think you can kind of get that already with the European maps. So if you have an American map that's just a very, very different style, I think that would help. You know, I think people would really, really like that. If you want to, you know, farm in the hills and the mountains and do like a lot of grass work, you know, you go for a European map. If you want to just plant, you know, 100-acre cornfield, then as far as I could see, then, you know, you get an American map. So I would like them to maybe consider catering to that kind of play style a little bit more, because that's something that always has to happen with mods. You know, like maps like Elma, Missouri, and I can't think of another one. Or Griffin, Indiana was another good one for that. You know, those are great maps that really capture like the essence of small town, rural America. Just huge fields everywhere, big equipment, wide open space, you know, flat land, and all that kind of stuff. So that'd be really, really cool to see coming from an American such as myself that used to drive. My drive to college was straight down I-65 south through central Indiana. And man, it is like you leave my house 30 minutes, then it's cornfields for 100 miles. Then you pass Indianapolis, then it's cornfields for 50 more miles. So, you know, I'm very familiar with the American agricultural environment, and, you know, would like to see that kind of reflected in the game. But we've been talking for about a half hour now. So thank you guys. If you made it to the end of the episode, I appreciate your patience. I know this is a very different episode of you know, this series, but I just really wanted to take the time to talk about FS25, and I felt like this would be a great way to do it. We just had to get some stuff done, and you know, what better than to just kind of work and chat. So thank you guys for sticking around. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear what you think about FS25. If you've looked at any of the screenshots, if you haven't, go check them out. Go check out, you know, Giant's blog post on their website. Check out some other content creators that have made some videos, kind of taking a deep dive into some of the content that Giants has released already. But yeah, very, very excited. I'm very optimistic. I'm very positive about everything. You know, I'm never gonna, like, especially farm sim, I'm not gonna write off the game based on a few screenshots. And honestly, I think what they've released so far looks really promising. I think it looks really good. I think the new features that they've kind of hinted at are already going to be really, really cool. And I have zero reasons to write off the game, and I don't see why anybody would want to do that. I think that you're being very your decision is very premature. So, you know, keep an eye on what else they release, and you know, just stay tuned for more updates. But yeah, everything's very exciting right now. So thanks again for watching. I will see you guys in our regularly scheduled episode of Lost, probably in the coming days, and then we'll be back into just a regular episode of the 1,000 Cows series. I think in the next episode we will just be we'll probably get into the forage harvest. I think I'll go and stack the straw bales today just by myself. You guys don't need to see me stack bales. You know, I've done it already a couple of times, but yeah, we'll just do that. Get those bales stacked in the barn, and then I'll bring you guys back in probably in the next month once we get the forage harvest ready to go. Series is coming to an end. Exciting stuff and new things on the horizon. So I got another, like I said, I got another series in the works. Very excited to start recording that. It's going to be something a little bit different. Kind of a twist on a very, I'll give you a hint. You know, it's a twist on a common challenge. I will say that, but that's all I will say. So I will see you guys in the next episode, and in the meantime, hope you all have a great week. Go out, enjoy your summer. Weather's been beautiful over by where I live, so hopefully it's the same for you. But till next time, have a great week. I will talk to you guys later. See ya.